All right. So, seen a lot of discussions about flinch in Destiny. So, people complaining that, hey, I shot that guy twice, and he still headshot me with a sniper. I thought he was flinched. Why am I still getting hit? And I think to answer that question, I kind of wanted to give people a better understanding of how the Destiny networking systems work. Specifically because Destiny is not a server authoritative game. It's a lot more complicated than this. I don't intend to, badmouth any kind of architectural decisions. This isn't going to be a video to shit on anything. This is more to kind of expand your knowledge on how these things work. My background is in game engines. I do simulation and networking work, and I just thought that with a few experiments, I could kind of confirm some of my hypotheses and hopefully give you some information to use when you're playing. And yeah, just empower your knowledge about how this stuff works. All right, so I wanted to set up an experiment, specifically flinch, right? We know about snipers. The way to defeat snipers is flinch them. But I think a lot of you have had situations where you're basically shooting somebody, you hit them twice, and they still fucking headshot you. Why is that? Why is that? What I have set up here, oh my god. What I have set up here is I connected 2 of my personal accounts to a private match. The key difference to understand here is that I connected this other account to Chile and my main account to Australia. This means this is probably the worst ping I could figure out how to have between 2 players, essentially. And the experiment I'm going to do is I am going to try to, in a short amount of time, shoot my second account while the second account is just aiming at the head without any adjustment and shooting back, essentially. So the experiment's going to be I shoot, and then that account shoots, tries to hit me in the head. And you'll see that because of how long it takes for my bullets to register on his screen, he'll still basically be able to kill me. The way I'm doing this shit is here's a laptop of my free-to-play Destiny 2 account. I have 2 mice. Where is it? Oh god, this camera. Okay, mouse 1. Whatever. This other hand has mouse 2. You believe me. Okay. So right now on my second account, as you can see, I have myself zoomed in. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to click on my main account, and then I'm gonna click on my second account in that order. So technically I should have Konovich here flinched, and it should prevent the headshot from the sniper from getting me, right? So let's try this right now. 3, 2, 1, click, click. 3, 2, 1, click, click. Sniper out, aiming for head, aiming my sidearm at head. So again, I'm gonna shoot sidearm first. I think saying click click doesn't work because that's longer time than it takes for the signals to travel. So actually, I'm gonna not say click click. So let's see, shooting sidearm first, then sniper. So sidearm sniper versus sidearm sniper. And you can see how, yeah, basically I took a headshot. I took a headshot. You can see the damage showing up on my screen, but I'm still essentially landing that headshot. Interesting. Okay, cool. The other thing to pay attention to is this. So look, I shoot, and then there's the damage numbers. I shoot, then there's the damage numbers. What does that mean? That means the game is literally not confirming that I damaged this guy until my bullet travels from America to Australia, then to Chile, then back to this account, and then back to me in that same direction. So again, look at this. How long is that? That is almost a fucking second, right? Yeah. So flinching is just not a good way to fight snipers, because if the person you're shooting at has a connection that is pretty consistent with you, you're probably pretty safe flinching them. Problem is that you don't know whether you have a good connection. Worse, even if they have a good connection, there might be some kind of a network spike that happens in the moment that you shoot them and you flinch them, and that flinch doesn't count, and you still get shot in the head. So no matter what Bungie does to try to balance snipers with flinch, it's never going to really work because of this networking architecture. And like, why is that? So imagine if we were playing a server authoritative model. You wouldn't be able to have a bad network connection to you actually benefit you. Essentially, if my internet lag spikes while I'm trying to snipe somebody, it actually gives me an advantage because it gives me more time to land that headshot before I can get flinched. If this was a server authoritative model, what would actually happen is that essentially both of us would try to fire, and that fire signal would arrive on the server, right? If I had a bad connection for my sniper rifle shot, my signal would arrive late on the server. And on the server, basically the flinch would register first. The problem with Destiny is that essentially, because we're a peer-to-peer system, what kind of ends up happening is that as soon as you're shooting another player, that damage isn't confirmed until it arrives in their machine, and their machine simulates that damage. That basically means that, again, if my connection is bad, when I'm aiming at somebody with a sniper rifle and trying to shoot back at them, I'm not going to get flinched, and it just gives me more time to land that headshot. I'm not here to talk shit about the architecture. I'm sure Bungie has their reasons for why they chose this. There's other benefits. Those of you who like to play Top Tree Dawn, those of you who like to play Grapple, there are definite benefits to having some client authority for things like movement, and because essentially, when you're server authoritative, your behaviors are tied to the frequency of the server simulation, whereas in Destiny, as fast as your frame rate is, that's how much you can generate inputs. So if you've ever seen Top Tree Dawn Warlocks do like weird spinny moves when they're doing like air dodges and stuff like this, that's really only possible because essentially they can do the full simulation on the client, and it's not tied to any kind of server frame rate. But overall, from a game fairness perspective, like there's really not much you can do. So essentially, if you're ever in a situation where you're trying to duel a sniper, you don't know how good their connection is, like don't flinch them. Just get out of there. And it sucks to hear that, but yeah, you're never gonna know. Again, like even if you have a really good connection in this game, you don't know if that person's going to have a weird Wi-Fi hiccup. Maybe Xfinity decides to shit the bed for a second, and then they'll, your flinch doesn't count. Like, this is an amazing visual representation of what I'm talking about. When you see the damage numbers show up on my screen, that's when Konovich here is flinched. So look at this. Like, how long is this? Yeah, so you never know. All right, so for some bonus footage, what I'm going to do is also include some experiments I did earlier this year. So I'm a networking engineer in game engines, networking and simulation. So there's this tool that we can use sometimes to test bad networking conditions. I was able to essentially use it in Destiny for a little while and do things like, hey, what happens if I'm in cover? I disable my network, I come out of cover, I shoot, and I go back into cover, and then re-enable my network. Like, what kind of stuff happens with this? And I have some raw footage going over this. It's interesting, though, because BattleEye technically catches it. After a little bit of time of recording this thing, it basically, my character would get error code plumbed. And I actually did try, because this is a throwaway account, I don't really care if it gets banned. I don't actually play it on any real live games. I mostly just screw around on private matches to kind of test things like this. I was trying to do the same thing again, but it looks like BattleEye actually kicks this account if I have this tool running in the background at all. So I haven't been able to really redo my experiments. But the footage I got from a few years ago is still really interesting and worth sharing. So yeah, I'll kind of edit it in and talk about what I'm seeing. All right, so here we are. I got my burner account back in. What I'm going to try to do right now is I'm going to turn off networking and move around and see what happens. So I'll start over here, and I'm going to turn off networking, move over, turn it back on, and you can see my character just teleported. There you go. So this is kind of what happens. Let's try another trick. I am going to go into cover, turn off networking, try to shoot myself in the head, then go back into cover and see what the game says. So let's give this a shot. Oh, interesting. It actually protected from that. All right, let's try that again, but in a slightly different way. I am going to turn off networking, pull in, and then enable networking. Boom! Look at that! Oh my god, that was... Oof. Oh, okay. I don't know why that was exciting. I didn't expect that to actually happen, but it did. It was so bad. That's crazy! In cover, turn off networking. Fire rocket, turn networking back on. And didn't quite work. Very interesting. Didn't work a second time. That's super interesting. I wonder if the game is catching on to my shenanigans. So it seems to be very difficult to repro this consistently. Oh, and there we go. My burner account finally got kicked because BattleEye caught on something was going on. Destiny's architecture is pretty interesting because things that I noticed is that if I was to go into cover, disable my networking, shoot, and then go back into cover and then re-enable networking, what I would notice is that actually damage wouldn't register on this other account. It's really interesting. I think what's actually happening is that the way the game, this is totally a hypothesis, so Bungie engineers, if you're watching this, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what ends up happening is that when you get shot from the other account, so somebody shoots you in the head, the game does a calculation from your perspective of the person being shot and even sees if that's possible. So if you're doing any kind of networking manipulation where you're in cover, you turn off networking, you shoot, then you go back into cover, you disable, because when your networking packets arrive to try to do that hit, you're already behind cover and that shot should have been impossible, I think the system just kind of invalidates it. So these kinds of weird cheats I don't think are really easy to do with the current networking systems because essentially like the other player has to be vulnerable to you to actually be able to do damage. But the things that I was able to see was that if I was behind cover and I turned off my networking and I slid out of cover, shot myself, re-enabled networking, I was able to get headshots. And it's a pretty cool thing to see live. Yeah, you'll see my reactions too. I'll be like, what the fuck? How is this happening? But anyway, it's pretty cool to see. I thought this would be a fun thing to demonstrate, and I hope you guys use this to kind of, Destiny is what it is, and don't get too mad at the game, but also be aware of these things and don't put yourself to lag risk if you can. So, yeah. We play the game that we have, not necessarily the game that we wish we had, Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you. Beep, 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 beep. Okay, let's try this again.